Hi, my name is Casey Walker. I'm an attorney and I'm the founder of A Disability Group. Today I would like to discuss the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. This is otherwise known as the DSM. The long form is a little bit of a mouthful, so for the rest of the video I'll be referring to this as the DSM. So what is the DSM and why is it relevant to veterans? Well, I'm going to read directly from the description found online. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders is a primary diagnostic tool used by mental health professionals in the United States. It is published by the American Psychiatric Association and is now in its 5th edition, otherwise known as the DSM-5. The DSM has undergone several revisions over the years, with each edition reflecting the latest research and advances in the field of mental health. The DSM-5 was published in 2013 and is the most current version of the manual. So 2013, it changed from the DSM-4 to the DSM-5. So let's break that out a little bit. Why do we need the DSM-4, the DSM-5? Well, because the VA says mental health professionals must give diagnoses that are found in the DSM-5, the Diagnostic Statistics Manual. DSM-5, the diagnosis must be found in there. So if you're told by a professional that you have in-law syndrome or healthy food syndrome, because you don't let you're averse to both of those, that's not a real condition. It's a standardized mental health conditions that people can't just flippantly say, I think you have this, and they come up with a new mental health condition every other day. It's a standardized mental health conditions. If you don't like healthy food, it doesn't mean you have a mental health condition. It means you're human. So with that in mind, that's why those are funny examples, but it's the standardized. I have some standard that all mental health practitioners can use, and the VA has adopted that standard because it's the standard of treatment for all mental health professionals across the country and most of the world for that matter. So this mandate to use the DSM-5 and to adopt the DSM comes in Regulation 38 CFR 4.125. And there it states, if the diagnosis of a mental disorder does not conform to DSM-5 or is not supported by the findings on the examination report, the rating agency shall return the report to the examiner to substantiate the diagnosis. Long-winded way of saying they've got to use the DSM-5. One other consideration here is personality disorders and intellectual disabilities are expressly excluded, even if they're found in the DSM-5. There's a separate regulation that says they're not allowed to be considered for VA disability purposes, and that's found at 38 CFR 4.127. So personality disorders, you cannot be compensated for, even though they might be found in the DSM-5. So that's one unique proviso or consideration that veterans should be considerate of, is that despite it being in the DSM-5, it cannot be considered for VA disability purposes. So the DSM-4 had something known as the Global Assessment of Functioning. This is oftentimes referred to as your GAF score. What's your GAF score? What's your GAF score? Well, the GAF score was before 2013 under the old DSM. Mental health practitioners would, on a scale of 1 to 100, assess their overall view of a veteran's mental health symptoms, the severity of such. So the lower the score, the more severe the symptoms. So a veteran who had, say, a 40 GAF score would have pretty severe symptoms, whereas a veteran with maybe an 80 GAF score would be pretty normal. And that was often relied on by the VA. As a matter of fact, the VA would send it back to the mental health examiner if they did not annotate a GAF score. So it was strictly complied with by the VA because they adopted the DSM-4 at that time. So the reason this is potentially relevant, it doesn't apply today. Examiners don't assess a GAF score anymore. But if you have an old claim that predates 2013 that still might be open, we're talking to VA, these things can last a while, then it is relevant because you might be able to avail yourself to a GAF score that shows severe symptoms, and you might be able to say, you must give me the higher evaluation because my claim predates 2013, but at a minimum, it's probative because that score still assesses the overall symptoms of a veteran's mental health condition. So that's probative under any circumstance. So a lot of adjudicators and judges and attorneys are trying to completely hand-wave dismiss GAF scores as though they're not relevant. That's just patently false. It's still relevant. It's just not required under the new DSM-5. So let's summarize the unique considerations when dealing with the DSM-5. Well, the diagnosis that the VA gives you, or that an examiner gives you, or a mental health professional, well, it must be found in the DSM. GAF scores, the Global Assessment of Functioning, those are no longer found in DSM-5, but they're still probative. And personality disorders and intellectual disabilities are expressly excluded from being eligible for compensation from the VA. And lastly, the former DSM DSM-4, it didn't include a lot of conditions that are found today. So you see this in the sequential order of these DSMs. What you see is new diagnoses are added. If you go back to the Vietnam War and the DSM that was being used at that time, there was no such thing as a PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder found in the DSM. Now, this condition was accepted and known by mental health practitioners for centuries. Some people called it a soldier's heart, shell shock. There's all kinds of terms for it, but it wasn't in the DSM. So the VA couldn't award compensation for post-traumatic stress disorder. And I bring this up to say that every new DSM includes some new terms. And they might also modify the criteria for a condition, but nonetheless, the DSM must include your diagnosis. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you found this helpful. If you like this video, like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Comment below. Have a good day.